Clark is getting back on the golf course again this offseason, participating in the Annika golf outing. And she has a couple of caddies that are going to be taking the course alongside her in the form of Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull. Sophie and Lexi kind of called this shot, or especially Sophie did, back before when it was first announced that Caitlin was going to do this event.
Caitlin Clark just picked up 2 caddies for her golf tournament, and one of them is Sophie Cunningham. You know, the player everyone thought was leaving the Indiana Fever. Now she's out here carrying Clark's golf clubs. Meanwhile, the entire WNBA offseason has gone so quiet, it's like the league went into hibernation. Has a sports league ever lost your attention so fast you forgot it even existed? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
You could get into the comments section. You see there's Caitlin Clark with Nelly Korda, who, was impressed with Caitlin's poise on the golf course last year, even with the crowds, and said she got into women's basketball because of Caitlin. Sophie Cunningham says, Caitlin Clark, need a couple of caddies. Lexi Hull with the smiling face or whatever that is and some beer cheers. And Lexi Hull says, sign us up. And you thought that was the end of it, right? At least I did. I did not think we'd be revisiting that. Just felt like the cute little remnants of the Instagram comments section. But it is actually...
So, here's the situation. Caitlin Clark is playing in a celebrity golf tournament. Exactly the kind of thing athletes do in the off-season when they're not training or doing whatever else they do when nobody's watching. And for this tournament, she needed caddies. Not just any caddies, but guest caddies who could make the whole thing a little more interesting for fans and the media.
Also have the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, bringing Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham along for the ride as golf caddies at her golf tournament.
Enter Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham, 2 of Caitlin's teammates from the Indiana Fever, both showing up to spend a day on the golf course, carrying clubs and giving advice on which iron to use. On the surface, it's a fun little off-season activity, players hanging out, doing something lighthearted, showing they've got good chemistry off the court. Normal stuff. But here's where it gets interesting. Sophie Cunningham's future with the Indiana Fever has been uncertain. There's been speculation about whether she'll stay with the team, whether she's happy there, and whether the organization values her enough to keep her around. And through all this uncertainty, the Fever social media has barely posted about Sophie. Almost nothing, which made people wonder if something was going on behind the scenes.
Now taking her talents to the golf course, where she will join Clark for the Annika Pro-Am tournament next week. Unlike Clark, however, Cunningham will not play in the tournament. She and Fever teammate Lexi Hull have committed to be Clark's guest.
So when Sophie shows up as Caitlin's caddy at this golf tournament, suddenly people start reading into it. Maybe it means she's staying with the Fever. Maybe it's a sign that relationships are good. Maybe it's proof the team plans to keep her. Or maybe it just means Sophie had nothing else to do that day and thought carrying golf clubs sounded fun. Who knows?
Clark has opened up the opportunity for both Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull to be a part of this huge non-basketball, I said non-basketball event. So again, when you talk about Caitlin Clark opening things up for other people, it's not just on the basketball court. That is the kind of...
The announcement came from Gainbridge, which is connected to the Indiana franchises and the Fever organization. They posted that Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull would be caddying for Caitlin Clark alongside professional golfer Nelly Korda and Lauren Yen. The event is set for November 12th, giving fans about a week to get excited about watching basketball players pretend to know golf. And honestly, this should be a bigger deal than it is. A year ago, if you told people Caitlin Clark was playing in a celebrity golf tournament and her teammates were going to be her caddies, it would have been everywhere, national news, trending all over social media, articles written about it. The whole thing would have been a massive event. But now, it's just kind of happening, and most people don't seem to care that much. Which brings us to the real story here. The WNBA offseason has been incredibly quiet. The league that was everywhere last year, breaking viewership records, selling out arenas, getting constant media coverage, has basically disappeared from public conversation. And that's a problem. Think about where we were a year ago. Caitlin Clark was still in college, but the anticipation around her joining the WNBA was massive. Every game Caitlin Clark played drew millions of viewers. Every interview she gave became a talking point. People who had never watched women's basketball were suddenly interested. The league was riding a wave of momentum that felt like it could change everything. Then the season happened. Caitlin joined the Fever, brought massive attention to the league, and things were going great. Viewership was up, attendance was up, merchandise sales were through the roof. But somewhere along the way, that momentum died. And now, in the offseason, when teams should be building on that excitement and keeping fans engaged, everything has gone quiet. Part of the problem is that there's just nothing happening. No major trades, no big announcements, no storylines to follow. The offseason in any sports league can be slow, sure, but the WNBA needed to keep the energy going. They had new fans, casual fans who were interested but not yet committed. Those fans needed reasons to stay engaged. Instead, they got silence. The other problem is how the league handled Caitlin Clark during the season. There was constant negativity, constant criticism, constant drama surrounding her. Other players made comments, analysts questioned her impact, and people debated whether she even deserved the attention she was getting. And for new fans watching all of this, it was exhausting. They came to watch basketball and ended up in the middle of some weird cultural battle that had nothing to do with the actual games. Someone in NBA media apparently said it's become problematic in the WNBA to not hate Caitlin Clark, which is wild. In the NBA, if you're constantly hating on LeBron James like Skip Bayless does, you're seen as a troll, but at least you're part of the conversation. In the WNBA, the perception seems to be that if you're not constantly criticizing Caitlin, you're the bad person. That's not a healthy environment for a league trying to grow. And that's probably why so many fans checked out. They didn't want the drama or negativity. They just wanted to watch good basketball and support players they liked. Instead, they got a league that seemed more interested in internal conflicts than building on its momentum. Now we're in the off-season, and interest has tanked. Things that would have been huge stories a year ago barely get noticed now. Caitlin playing golf with her teammates as caddies should be a fun story that keeps fans engaged. Instead, it's just a small blip most people won't even notice. The Sophie Cunningham angle is interesting, though. She's genuinely been one of the more important pieces for the Fever. She brings shooting, toughness, and experience, the kind of veteran presence a young team needs. But there's been this weird situation where some fans want her gone for reasons that have nothing to do with basketball, which is exactly the kind of nonsense that's been plaguing the league. The fact that Sophie is showing up as Caitlin's caddy could be seen as a positive sign. Maybe it means she's happy with the team. Maybe it means relationships are strong. Maybe it means the Fever are going to prioritize keeping her. Or maybe it means absolutely nothing, and she's just being a good teammate by helping out at a golf tournament. Reading too much into these things is how more drama starts. Lexi Hull being there makes perfect sense. She's been Caitlin's teammate, they have a good relationship, and she seems like the kind of person who'd be up for a fun off-season activity. No drama there, just a player supporting her teammate at an event. But the whole situation highlights how much things have changed in just 1 year. Last season, anything involving Caitlin Clark became a massive story. She couldn't do anything without it being analyzed, discussed, and debated. Now she's playing in a celebrity golf tournament with her teammates, and it's barely registering with the general public. Part of that is natural. The novelty wears off. People move on to other things. Sports have cycles of interest. But the WNBA can't afford that kind of drop-off. They needed to convert those casual fans into committed ones. They needed to keep the momentum going. Instead, they let it slip away. The comment about Paige Bucher's fans being K-pop stans who just retweet things with Sabrina Carpenter profile pictures but don't actually watch games is pretty accurate. There's a lot of social media noise around women's basketball that doesn't translate into real viewership or attendance. And those metrics matter more than trending hashtags, and right now, those numbers are down. The idea that if Lexi Hull had been announced as Caitlin's caddy a year ago, it would have been national news, is probably true. Everything was news then, every connection between players, every off-season activity, every social media post got attention. Now, it's just another thing happening that most people aren't paying attention to. And that's unfortunate for everyone involved. The players worked hard to build that momentum. Caitlin Clark specifically brought so much attention to the league, but that attention wasn't properly managed or sustained. Now we're in this weird place where the offseason feels dead, and the excitement that existed just months ago seems like a distant memory. The golf tournament itself should still be fun. Caitlin's actually pretty good at golf, which makes sense since a lot of basketball mechanics transfer to the golf swing. And having her teammates there as caddies adds a social element that makes it even more entertaining. If people actually watch or pay attention, it'll probably be a good time. But the fact that we're even questioning whether people will pay attention is the problem. This is Caitlin Clark, the player who broke viewership records, sold out arenas, and had everyone talking about women's basketball. And now, an off-season event with her teammates is something that might go unnoticed. That's a massive drop in interest in a very short time. The WNBA needs to figure out how to maintain engagement during the off-season. They need storylines, content, reasons for fans to stay connected. Other leagues do this well. The NBA off-season is almost as interesting as the regular season, with free agency, trades, summer league, and constant news. The WNBA off-season, by contrast, has been mostly silent, and that silence is killing the momentum they worked so hard to build. Sophie Cunningham's presence at this event shouldn't be analyzed as some major clue about her future with the team. But it is being analyzed that way simply because there's so little else happening. When there's no real news, people start reading into every small thing. That's not healthy for the league or the players. The Fever organization's social media barely posting about Sophie is weird, though. If she's an important part of the team, why aren't they promoting her more? If they want to keep her, shouldn't they be showing that she's valued? The lack of social media presence could mean nothing, or it could be a sign of something going on internally. Either way, it's created speculation that probably didn't need to exist. The broader issue is that the WNBA had something special happening and couldn't sustain it. They had mainstream attention, new fans, and momentum. But poor decisions, unnecessary drama, and a lack of engagement during the off-season let that slip away. Now we're back to a league most people aren't thinking about, a huge missed opportunity. Caitlin Clark playing golf with her teammates should be a fun story that keeps fans engaged during the quiet months. Instead, it's barely making waves, and that says everything about where the league's attention has gone. Hopefully, things pick up as the season approaches, but right now, the WNBA offseason feels like everyone just forgot it exists. So, Caitlin Clark got Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull as her golf caddies, and the WNBA offseason remains about as exciting as watching paint dry. A year ago, this would have been huge news. Now it's just something happening while everyone's attention is elsewhere. If you enjoyed this reality check, hit that like button and subscribe for more content.